We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you're able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing of the national anthem and the reading of the invocation.
Would you please remain standing as you're able as I read the invocation to begin tonight's meeting. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community, who are no longer with us, and that we continue to do the work we must in their memory. Please be seated. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councillor Van Tilborg.
Here.
Councillor McCreary.
Here.
Councillor Sullivan.
Present.
Councillor Sokoli.
Sorry, here and present.
Councillor Caputo.
Present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Hunt.
Here.
Councillor Samwell.
Present.
Councillor Sless.
Present.
Councillor Carpenter.
Present.
Through the chair, roll call's been taken.
I'm here.
Mayor Davis.
Present. So we'll deal with conflicts of interest. My understanding, Councillor Sullivan, you have a conflict. Would you please confirm the item and nature of your conflict?
It's item 12.2.2 and it's my current employer.
So that's the transition of the municipal blue box program. Okay, got that. Any other conflicts of interest anyone needs to declare regarding any item that's on tonight's agenda, please physically raise your hand. Seeing no declared conflicts. So we'll deal now with the items that we want to separate for discussion tonight. We do have two. We have the one that Councillor Sullivan just declared the conflict on. And we also have 12.3.2, which is a fire incident 321 Henry Street and the report we received on that matter. And that's because we have a delegation. Are there any other items contained in the reports that members would like separated for discussion purposes? Councillor Samwell.
12.4.3.
12.4.3. Just want to read the title. Sorry. Flipping through the pages. That's the zoning bylaw amendment for 91 Burkett Lane. Okay. I think I saw another hand over here. So Councillor Hunt.
12.4.1.
I believe that's the rezoning on Johnson Road. Okay. Councillor Secoli, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was also going to ask for 12.4.1, 72 Johnson Road.
Okay. All right. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.3.3.
12.3.3, that's the notice of motion deadline update. Yeah. Okay. Any other items anybody wants separated? Okay. All right, so Councillor Carpenter, could you please move the motion to approve all the items that have not been separated for discussion purposes and state your seconder?
Yes, my seconder is my ward mate, Councillor Linda Hunt, and moved by myself that all items contained within the committee of report, item 12.1 to 12.4, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
And Mr. Clerk, would you please read out the title of the items that we're voting on?
Through the chair, the following items are subject to the vote. So from the Human Resources Committee report 12.1.1, 2023-2027 People Master Plan. From Committee of the Whole Operations Report 12.2.1 Winter Operations Service Level Review, 12.2.3 Potential Locations for future splash pads in city parks, 12.2.4 Cemetery Bylaw Amendments for New Oak Hill, 12.2.5 Economic Development, Tourism and Cultural Initiatives Advisory Committee Report, 12.2.6 Ted Bear Softball Diamonds, 12.2.7 the City of Brantford supports the Brantford Red Sox baseball team, 12.2.8 options to address panhandling and increase awareness of charitable organizations, 12.2.9 increasing the number of T-hangers at the Brantford Municipal Airport. From the Committee of the Whole Planning Administration Report 12.3.1 background information on Cultural Hub at One Market, 12.3.4 lane closing and conveyance Sandra Street, 12.3.5 Committee Review Task Force Report, 12.3.6 designation of net proceeds of the 2023 Mayor's Gala. From the Planning Committee Report 12.4.2 application for zoning bylaw amendment PZ 1023 346 Scheller Lane, and 12.4.4 Brant West Phase 1 subdivision traffic and parking control. Through the chair, all items not separated for discussion purposes carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Secoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so there are no statutory public hearings on the agenda for tonight, nor do we have any recognitions of achievement, but we do have 3 proclamations. Councillor Van Tilburg, can you please move the resolution approving the proclamations and state your seconder? And if you could also then go on to read 8.1.
To approve all proclamations.
Okay,
So let's get the first one up here.
if you'd read the first one, please, 8.1.
Yes, it's not loading on my screen there. It's on that screen though. Whereas World Suicide Prevention Day is time to join with others to the world to declare our commitment to preventing suicide, to spread the message that healing is possible and that there is always a hope and a helping hand so that no one faces these challenges alone. And whereas each death by suicide directly impacts numerous family members, friends, loved ones, and extension, the entire community. Every day, approximately 11 people end their lives by suicide in Canada. Another 210 will attempt suicide for each death by suicide is estimated that the lives of 7 to 10 bereaved survivors are profoundly affected. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background, and whereas the stigma associated with suicide works against suicide prevention by discouraging individuals thinking about suicide from receiving life-saving help, and further traumatizes survivors of suicide. And whereas all residents are encouraged to take I might have missed something here. And whereas suicide is a highly preventable tragedy, awareness and open and direct talk about suicide is key to making Brantford and Brant County suicide safer communities. Individuals and communities can work together to help prevent suicide, becoming aware of the warning signs and risk factors and knowing where to get help for individuals in distress. And whereas all residents are encouraged to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, friends, and neighbors over the next few days, and to genuinely convey their appreciation for their life by any gesture they deem appropriate. A simple phone call, a message, an act of kindness, or a gesture could help someone realize that suicide is not the answer. And whereas we wish to honor and thank those who have given of their time to receive formal suicide prevention training, who have reached out to someone in their time of need, and to those who join us now to stand together beside those who have attempted suicide, who have struggled with suicidal thoughts, who have had a difficult journey, and to the family members and friends of those who have died by suicide and feel the effects every day, we stand with you to say that you are not alone, and that the Brantford Brant community is here to help, is here for you. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims September 17th, 2023 as Suicide Prevention Day, and strongly encourage all members of our community to become educated, take all signs of suicide seriously, encourage conversations about mental health in order to break the stigma, and to promote hope and help to everyone in our community.
Councillor Sikoli, if you could read proclamation 8.2, please.
My pleasure. Whereas fetal alcohol spectrum disorders is a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and body of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol that persists throughout the lifespan. And whereas prenatal alcohol exposure is the leading preventable cause of developmental disabilities in Canada. And whereas the exact number of people who have FASD is unknown, a conservative estimate is that 4 out of 100 children are born with effects of prenatal alcohol exposure annually. Brantford, with a population of 98,000, therefore 3,920 people may be affected by FASD locally. And whereas approximately half of all pregnancies are unplanned, resulting in later prenatal care and possible unintentional exposure to alcohol. And whereas health, social, educational, and justice systems are involved at the community and provincial levels, with the cost to Canada of approximately $5.3 billion per year. And whereas Brantford community members, health and social service providers, and local decision makers all have a role to play in supporting pregnant women to avoid alcohol during pregnancy and raising awareness that there is no safe amount and no safe type and no safe time to drink alcohol during pregnancy. And whereas people internationally have observed FASD Awareness Day on September 9th since 1999, and the City of Brantford Council has observed this day since 2018, we acknowledge on the 9th day of the 9th month of the year, the world will remember that during the 9 months of pregnancy, it is important to abstain from alcohol. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims September 9th, 2023 as FASD Awareness Day in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. And Councillor McCurry, if you would read the third proclamation.
Mayor, I will. This is in relation to Culture Days, September 22 to October 15th of this year. Whereas cultural participation and activity enriches and defines the identity of Brantford, serves as a mechanism of resiliency and recovery, and improves of the quality of life of its citizens. And whereas arts and culture participation makes a vital contribution to the development and well-being of individuals and society. And whereas Brantford believes that community-based cultural celebrations enhance the connections between citizens of diverse interests, abilities, and cultures. And whereas culture arises and flourishes first locally, and whereas Brantford has already shown its intention to implement projects that affirm both its inclusive cultural identity and the active participation of its citizens in the cultural life of the municipality. And whereas an annual national initiative, Culture Days exists as a catalyst that connects individuals and creators, eliminates barriers, and stimulates understanding, appreciation, and exploration of arts, culture, and heritage, so that every individual in the country has a deeper connection with themselves, their community, and Canada. And whereas Culture Days is a national initiative and Brantford has been an active and long-standing participant. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims September 22, 2023 to October 15, 2023 as Culture Days in the City of Brantford.
Thank you, Councillor McCurry. Now I'll call the vote on the proclamations.
The approval of all proclamations carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
Right, the next item on our agenda are presentations, delegations, and we have one registered delegation this evening. Prior to hearing the delegations, I'd like to remind those in the meeting that we do have the following rules of decorum as set out in the city's procedural bylaw. First is that no person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting room other than the materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audiovisual aids and necessary in connection with any presentation made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only in the subject in debate and shall not speak on any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in any conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. So we have one delegation. I believe it's Leighton Friesen, CEO of Northwest Rubber, and Joe Alarja, hopefully I pronounced that right, plant manager of the Northwest Rubber facility, coming to speak to us about item 12.3.2, which is a report we received from our fire department regarding the fire at 321 Henry Street. So if you could just press the red button there to start so you have 10 minutes to make your presentation, inclusive of any questions from committee council members. And if you please start by formally identifying yourselves.
Mr. Mayor, thank you and councillors, thanks for letting us present tonight. My name is Leighton Friesen. I am the CEO of Northwest Rubber. And this is Joe, our plant manager at 321 Henry Street. Let me grab my notebook. So 10 minutes isn't a lot of time. And if I had half an hour, we could get into a lot more detail. So September 27th, we have invited Brian Hutchings and possibly someone else, I think, from his office to do a plant tours, both at 321 Henry and 300 Henry. We will also extend the invite to all of you on the morning of September 27th. We'll be happy to go into as much detail at that point as time will allow. If I can start by just giving you a little bit of background on our business. I know you're not here to learn about us. You want to talk about the incidents that we've had. So I'll breeze through this really quickly. We've been around since 1968. We've been in Brantford since the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. And we employ about 145 full-time employees here in Brantford. I'll skip through a bunch of these just for the sake of time. Yeah, there are a number of charities locally that we've been involved with. About a third of Ontario's scrap tire rubber goes through our 321 Henry Street plant. So that facility plays a key role in recycling and upcycling recycled scrap tires in the province of Ontario. Yeah, had I had more time, I would have given you a bit more background on us. Really the intent of walking you through that is we've been around for 55 years. We've tried to do things the right way, not cutting corners. We've tried to be a good corporate citizen. Clearly, we've had a couple of incidents that have happened here in Brantford that we're not happy about, and we know you're not happy about. And prior to our 2019 incident, we really had not sustained any significant fire loss in our, at that point, 51-year history. So really, we were entering uncharted territory, trying to figure out what caused that. What was the root cause of the 2019 incident? And so we deployed what I would say is an army of engineers. We brought in professionals to help us determine root cause, and certainly learned a whole lot. And based on those learnings, we initiated a bunch of changes that I will bucket into two primary streams, one being around equipment and systems, the other being around procedures and people. So we have significantly upgraded our controls, tying a lot of standalone systems that weren't integrated together. We have added sensors at 3 different layers, both right outside presses and at a few different places in the yard. And not only sensors, but now sensors that alarm and push notifications. We've added significant additional cooling, both in press and dunk tanks. So those are some of the equipment changes and systems changes that we have invested in since that incident. On the procedures and people side, we've had to adjust and revise our standard operating procedures clearly. There's been a huge effort in retraining all of our employees. We've added supervision. And really, if there is a press cycle that doesn't go through perfectly, the procedures in which to manage that, we've completely changed that. And really the difference, I would say, so you might hear all that and say, that's great, but then you had another incident. So what have you done? What have you done now that you weren't doing prior to October 2022? And I would say the biggest focus has really been around the elimination of the manual processes that we were managing. Manual temperature checks. Like I said before, the systems that we have in place now send out alerts and push alerts, whereas prior to that, an operator would need to check something and ensure that it was as it should be. And so we now have a lot more eyes on that and have removed a lot of the manual nature of that. I think we have worked fairly closely and fairly well with the Brantford Fire Department. Obviously, it's not how we want to be working with them, but certainly between the Brantford Fire Department and our insurers, risk engineers, there have been a lot of changes made to yard layouts, amount of inventory that we store on site, putting up concrete wind barriers. Really all of the recommendations that have been made by the Brantford Fire Department as well as our insurers have all been complied with. Additionally, there are a couple of other things that we are working on that certainly haven't been mandated, but we're very motivated as you are to not ever see this happen again. We have a fairly significant project going right now. It'll be probably February or March of 2024 before it's complete. But we are introducing a mat cooling process to our production system. Today, mats go into the yard where they cool for a number of days as part of the process. This mat cooling system, we will basically, at the end of that process, mats will be down to pretty much ambient temperature, and then mats that are going into the yard will be basically at ambient. So We've done a lot. We are committed to investing in the things that we're being told and that we believe we need to do to further reduce risk. Like I said, we are very motivated. This has cost us a lot of money, and as well as our ability to service our customers and all the things that we are about as a business. And so I want you to know that you have a corporate citizen that cares, that's trying to do things the right way, and that's committed to investing in our business to reduce this risk.
All right, thanks, Mr. Friesen. We'll see if there are some questions. Any questions for Mr. Friesen in the room? Seeing none. I've got a question for you. So the system you now to detect problem stacks of finished product is now automated. Can you just briefly describe how that automation works? Like what'll trigger an alarm and then what happens? And
Joe, you want to take it?
Yes. So there are few important parameters we have to observe to run a perfect process. When I mean perfect process, the process that we know the products, in our case, mats coming out are at good conditions, they are not overheated and so on. And some of the examples like pressure, temperature, time, cooling temperature, all those critical parameters have to be in place in order to product coming out without alarms. In the past, some of these parameters were just to observe for employees. Some of the parameters were not visible to employees. And during the root cause analysis process conducted by our professional engineers and consultants, we determined those are the critical parameters that must be in place. So now, presently, using sophisticated control systems, if something is not perfect, it will automatically pause and alert employees. And when they come and they see there are in the forms of colors and alarms, employees know then this specific cycle, in our case, like 13 months, basically, are not perfect. So automatically triggers the process of checking, quarantining, and going and moving a product into the section of the site that is under basically in the real-time surveillance for the temperature. So what we are trying to do by that to eliminate human error. So we are adding those layers of protection, focusing on technology, as our CEO spoke, adding layer of protection in sense of alarming, reliability, and then also we added another layers of protection, which we work very closely with the Brantford Fire Department, proper storaging, controlling, and inspecting. So those are just some of the examples. But as also our CEO mentioned, for the future, we also would like to go step much ahead and above and beyond, and basically adding cooling, improving our cooling process system such a way that product coming out from the production is already at ambient temperature.
so I want to thank you for coming out tonight and delegating, presenting not just to us, but to the community at large. With the two incidents, there were a number of questions, and glad to hear you have these now automated systems in place and don't rely as much on the human element. And hopefully we won't see any more incidents there. And again, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out tonight and explaining to us what it is that has been done at the company.
Well, thank
All right.
you. And we will send invites to, if you're able to join us on September 27th.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move now to the clerk's report on communications. Councillor Sullivan, I believe you have the motion to receive the clerk's report on communications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Secoli, that the clerk's report on communication for August 2023 be received.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Clerk's report on communication carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll deal now with minutes. Councillor Sless, would you please move the motion, adopt the minutes listed in the agenda and state your seconder?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo, that the following minutes be adopted. Item 1, City Council, June 27, 23. 11.2 is Special City Council, July 18th, 2023. And finally, 11.3, Special City Council, Private and Confidential, July 18th, 2023.
Any errors and omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, call the vote.
The adoption of the minutes carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so now move to committee reports. Councillor Martin, would you please read the motion to place all separated items on the floor for discussion?
Certainly. I move, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that all items in the committee reports, items 12.1 to 12.4, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
All right, so we'll deal with 12.3.2 first. That's from the committee of the whole, and it's in relation to the fire incident report. And that's, of course, because we had a delegation here tonight. So any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Item 12.3.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll now move to item 12.2.2, and that is the transition of the municipal blue box program to individual producer responsibility. And this is because Councillor Sullivan declared a conflict. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Item 12.2.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Hunt, McCreary, Marn, Sless, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so move to deal with the other separated items, and we'll follow the order in which these items appear in the agenda. So the first item will be 12.3.3, which is the notice of motion deadline update. Councillor Carpenter, you asked for this to be separated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to separate this one item because I don't wish to vote for this item. I believe it compromises my right as a council to represent people. So I won't be supporting this recommendation. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Item 12.3.3 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Marn, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillors Sullivan, Carpenter, and Hunt.
All right, the next separated item is from the Planning Committee report. It's item 12.4.1, that's zoning bylaw amendment PZ 0823 dealing with 72 Johnson Road. Councillor Hunt, you can lead off. You were the one that asked to be separated.
Thank you. And through you to staff, I just had a couple of questions regarding the application that was put before the Planning Committee. So this was an application to amend the zoning, which currently does not allow for stacked townhomes. Am I correct?
Through you, your worship, Sean House is going to come to the front. He's the planner on the file.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Sean House, Planning Department. Through the chair to the councillor, stacked townhouses are not currently a permitted use on the property. The application is to permit them.
Okay, and I want to thank you, Sean. I did read your full report that went to the planning committee along with the summary that came out. So so are stack towns not a permitted use in the city, or do we have developers that have built stack towns and have got the amendment required to build them?
Through you, Chair, there are some examples of stacked townhouses being approved within the city. The closest example in proximity of this one would be at 9 Garden Avenue, where this form of this built form was approved. It's also been approved on an application from Don Victoria Homes along Powerline Road, and also at Cache Developments, the former Canadian Tire site on Colburn Street.
Okay, so we do have stack towns that are being built here in Brantford, even though they require that zoning amendment to build them.
Correct.
Okay. Should the developer have to do an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, what is our defense to an appeal based on the fact that your report was in favor of the zoning amendment?
Through you, Chair, that might be a discussion with the legal department.
Okay, so it's now legal gets involved. I'm not clear on the process. I'm trying to connect the dots going forward.
Yeah, it's kind of with each appeal, the process sometimes slightly differs depending on what the appeal was for. If it was for a non-decision or if it was against an actual against a decision. So I would have to consult with legal.
Okay, that's fair. So thank you for that. And I guess my other questions were probably along the same, like not sure if other staff can answer, but what are the costs to the city to defend an appeal to the OLT? And then my other question, and again, looking around the room if anyone else has an answer, but does the OLT have the authority to award costs should the developer be successful with their appeal?
Through you, Your Worship, Michael Bradley, Commissioner of Community Development. I think it's a difficult question to answer because we really don't know what the appeal would look like at this point. So it's probably something we should be discussing with legal in an in-camera format.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
So Councillor Hunt, if you wanted to answer those questions tonight, you can make a motion to go in camera. We always have that option, any one of us.
So I can make a motion to go in camera to further discuss. Okay, I'm going to make that motion.
So you're looking for a seconder? Joelle?
If you wouldn't mind, I just want to jump in and say that we certainly wouldn't be able to address those questions tonight without knowing what that information is. And once that action was to occur, before we were able to undertake anything, we would need to come to council and seek certain directions, as well as any applicable funding sources we may need. So that would still come to council.
Okay, just.
Yeah, you always have an option as well to, put on the floor a deferral the next cycle and within that period of deferral, getting some input from the legal department. But you're hitting up to your 5 minutes, so.
Okay, I'm going to leave that as an option and I'll come back around.
Okay. So just a reminder, we have 1 5-minute speaking opportunity unless there's an amendment. So we'll move to, I've got Councillors Caputo. No, sorry, Councillor Sikoli, then Caputo, then Sloss.
Good catch, Mayor Davis. So I did read the report and the recommendation from planning, and I understand planning had some hurdles with vacations and we weren't well attended or we weren't able to get full attendance to there. But reading the reasons for the refusal, I do have some concerns, and I do think that it's our responsibility to build a variety of types of homes, and a development like this and a housing style like this is exactly what we need more of in the city of Brantford. I believe professionally that it provides attainable housing and at an attainable price point. And this really speaks to first-time homebuyers who we are very concerned are not going to be able to enter into the housing market. But it also speaks to downsizers, people looking to downsize their home and get something new for themselves. So I don't know exactly what the price point will be, but I do know what the real estate market will sustain for a unit type like this. And I do believe it will be attainable. So I think it's entirely appropriate for the area and for the neighborhood. And I don't really agree with the recommendation of refusing this application. So I'm really hoping that we can defeat this tonight. We can defeat the recommendation to refuse this so that we can bring it back to the table and have a discussion with the ward councillors present on the validity of this. So I am supportive of it. So I'm going to ask everyone to defeat this tonight so that I can bring it back. Thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, Councillor Sicoli stolen all the thunder. Good work. I do have a couple of questions for staff. I also agree with Councillor Sicoli on this. I think as we move forward, is it fair to say that we're going to see a lot more zoning applications come in for stacked houses going into various areas?
Through you, Chair, the stacked townhouse dwelling type is a defined dwelling in our zoning bylaw. It's just not permitted without a zoning bylaw amendment. Currently, through the work for the upcoming new zoning bylaw, chances are it will be permitted in medium density zones like this one, or like the one that is proposed.
Okay, because that's my thought. The other thing is I did read the report, so we did do traffic studies. There's not going to be any more imposed traffic in the neighborhood at all, and basically it's just going to be business as usual. It's just stacked townhouses going into a residential area. Suffice to say.
Through you, Chair, we do have Jeff Cornwell here, who's our transportation staff, but and I'll let him speak to it, but the transportation impact study did come back as seeing a smaller impact on the traffic in the area.
Through the chair, Jeff Cornwell, project manager of development transportation. Through the traffic study, it was noted that the addition of the 28 stacked towns would add approximately 30 more trips to the AM peak and about 30 more trips to the PM peak.
Okay, thank you. Again, I also believe that we should be able to defeat this tonight and move forward. So thank you.
Councillor Sless, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first question I would have would be through to you, Sean. Is there not an amendment we can make? Like it seems odd that an accepted form of build requires an amendment to be able to move forward. And I realize we're doing a new zoning and a review and coming out with a new zoning package, but should there not be something in the interim that people are forced to go through a zoning change simply because it's not in our language? Is there not a short-term fix till we get a long-term solution?
Through you, Chair, these site-specific amendments are the standard route, like as prescribed by the Planning Act, where use isn't permitted, that they have to make that application. And regardless if it was there's a holding provision currently on the property, so a zoning amendment would be required anyways. And the medium density built forms that are contemplated in this application are also not permitted. So really, a site-specific zoning amendment would be required regardless.
Okay, well, I appreciate that clarification, Sean. And I guess Just further, Mr. Mayor, at the planning hearing, I did not support this recommendation that the staff put out there to approve. At the time, it was my understanding that this would be the first time we had stacked townhomes built in the city, but now tonight I'm hearing that there are others. In fact, there's one relatively close to this development. So it's not like it's a new phenomenon then, it's happening in the city already. And my understanding at the time of the vote was that this was something new, and that's why the amendment was coming forward. So having heard that explanation, I would change my vote from a negative in the planning hearing to a positive this evening. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor McCreary.
Oh, Mayor, thank you very much. Well, I was one of the three in attendance at the planning committee. The mayor and I and Councillor Sless, and had we not made a change to our quorum rules, we wouldn't have been able to hear this matter on that date, and we may have missed the deadline. As Councillor Sless indicated, we have been possessed of greater information tonight and in an information package that came from the developer, I think, in the last couple of days. And I too am willing to support this project going forward now, having received that information. I have yet to hear the opinions of the Ward 4 councillors. I would like to hear that tonight so that we can judge how that stands with respect to the representatives of the community who could have been at the meeting when we heard this at planning. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Councillor with respect to this, and I do suspect that we'll be able to move this forward tonight.
Anyone else? Well, I'll put my 2 cents in. I was also one of 3 that I was at the planning committee hearing. I felt very lonely as the chair with only 2 of my fellow councillors there. But let me set the timer. You know, I have the greatest of respect for our planning staff. 9 times out of 10, I agree with them. But, you know, there are times when you can not agree with planning staff and their opinions. And that's the democratic process. And so I think we can accept that, yes, when you don't agree with your planning staff, and given the makeup of what we have in our province under the Planning Act, I mean, it can be difficult because we may incur an expense, but I believe if we all strongly feel, if majority feels that in this case it's not appropriate, then we should be prepared to stand up for our principles. And money, although always a consideration when we represent the taxpayer, sometimes when it comes to Planning Act matters, dollars should be secondary, and it's the quality of life that should be foremost. And so the issue here was stacked townhouses, and we really have not had much experience in our city with stacked townhouses. And the first one we've really seen is the old Canadian Tire law, which I think has taken a lot of people a bit aback, that it's a stacked townhouse doesn't really look like a townhouse. It really looks like a small apartment building. And we didn't really know that. And now we see them up on Powerline Road. But I think the big difference with those 2, I voted in favor of them, is that those are what we call intensification corridors, that we expect there to be higher density apartments, high density townhouses in our intensification corridors, or which are those streets, the major streets and arteries in our community, like Powerline Road, like West Street, like Park Road North, like Charing Cross, like Colborne Street West, Colborne Street East. And so that's why I voted in favor of the one on Powerline Road. And then we did have another one that's on Garden Ave, and Garden Ave is not an intensification corridor, but Garden Ave has a different, if you know the area well, you know it's different than Johnson Ave, even though they're close to one another. And Garden Ave has a mix of townhouses, single family dwellings, kind of urban dwellings, industry, all within like half a mile. So it's a neighborhood that's already has within it a lot of different uses. And so that's why I voted for the one on Garden Ave. But when I look at Johnson Road, I'm looking at an area that doesn't have townhouses, doesn't really have anything else except in the subdivision, some reasonably large single family homes, and actually on Johnson itself, all single family homes and no townhouses or any other kind of use. And then I looked at the lot. This lot is kind of irregularly shaped. It's very deep. So you can't just put single family homes on it. That would be wasteful. The backyards would be huge. So my view of it is that certainly townhouses, regular townhouses would probably make sense here because you want to make good use of the land. You want to support the intensification to a reasonable degree to assist in meeting the housing crisis. But I thought, stacked townhomes in this area, which really look like they're 4 stories, they kind of look like they're built in blocks, they look like small apartment buildings, I thought would just be so out of character for this street that I just didn't feel comfortable that, and the consistency between uses is something we're required to consider. And I think it's okay to have a difference of opinion with planning staff. And that's what we do here in planning matters. We're trying to reach a balance, and with the perspectives we each have, not unusual, may all arrive at a different understanding or opinion as to what that balance should be. And I accept other members of council take a different view, and that's because this one's a little bit different. It's not a housing form that we're all that used to. And yes, when we have the comprehensive zoning bylaw, that'll probably change because we will deal with stacked townhomes in the comprehensive zoning bylaw, and we'll be able to pinpoint where they can take place in the city rather than leaving it to rezoning applications and dealing with them on an ad hoc basis. So I'm going to maintain the vote that I had or cast at the planning committee. And so unless anybody else wants to speak to it, I'm going to, Councillor Carpenter, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To staff, what could be put on this property currently without any zoning change?
Through you, Chair, the zoning currently permits single detached dwellings, although there is a holding provision on the property. So through a zoning amendment, that would need to be removed. And yeah, under the current zoning, one single detached dwelling could be placed on the property.
And with the provincial regulations, does the provincial regulation not allow 3 or more units to be on the property?
Through you, Chair, correct. The single detached dwelling could have 2 accessory units.
Okay, so we could have a number of things on there. Okay. Councillor Hunt and I met with the developers early on and went through the process. We told them there'd be some concerns, as there is, and we asked them for a very high-end product if they're going to get it anywhere, and they provided that. We had the meeting, probably the last meeting where we had a meeting at City Hall with residents. It's not required anymore, but we had that meeting at City Hall with the residents, and then we discussed it with the residents further after that. And still we get a majority of residents who are not supportive of this housing. They want single family housing only because they have large homes. And that's the will of the residents at this point. Thank you.
Okay, I will call the vote.
Mayor, are you going to give instruction on the vote?
Yeah, I'll give instructions. So if you vote yes, no, if you vote yes, you are voting to deny the application of the builder owner. If you vote no, you're saying that if you want to have, it gets this complicated. If you want to have a resolution that says we approve this zoning application, we don't agree with the planning committee, then what you should do, if that's your view, you vote no to this resolution. If it's defeated, I can then call for someone to put on the floor a resolution approving the application, which is essentially the resolution that was at the planning committee. Okay, so there you go. So if you think the application should be approved, then you vote no to this.
Item 12.4.1, is lost on a recorded vote of 3-8. Members voting in favor are as follows: Mayor Davis, Councillor Sullivan, and Councillor Carpenter. Members opposed: Councillors Van Tilburg, McCreary, Sokoli, Caputo, Marn, Hunt, and Samwell.
All right, so we need to deal with this zoning application. So I'm asking for a resolution, which I assume would be that the application be approved. So Councillor Sokoli, you got your hand up. Did you have a resolution you have in mind?
I do have a resolution in mind, and that would be the original recommendation from staff at the planning meeting that approves this application.
So approving the stacked townhouses. So if we
Correct.
can see that, there it is up there. So is this what you're moving?
I am moving that and seeking a seconder.
Councillor Caputo seconding it. Any discussion on this resolution, which is kind of the reverse of the last one, but it's the same subject? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I voted against the original one because I felt this should go through. And I'd be quite happy to support the ward councillor on this and see this approved so that this development can be built. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on the current resolution.
Item 12.4.1 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Marn, Caputo, Sokoli. Members opposed: Councillors Sullivan, Carpenter, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, so we'll go on to the other matter that was separated, the last item that's separated is 12.4.3. That's a zoning bylaw amendment. Re 101 and 91 Burkett Lane. Councillor Samwell, you asked for this to be separated.
Thank you. I wanted to have it separated tonight as I'll be voting against it as there's still concerns with this development. So just for the vote, please.
Okay. Any other discussion on 12.4.3? Seeing none, I'll call the vote.
Item 12.4.3. And won't let me press close. Carries on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCreary, Marn, Sless, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members opposed: Councillors Sullivan, Hunt, and Samwell.
All right, so there are no urgent reports for tonight. There are no resolutions. There are no notices of motion. The next notice of motion deadline is Thursday, August 31st at 9 a.m. unless you get a waiver. So we'll move into bylaws. And I believe Councillor Caputo, you have the resolution for first and second reading of the bylaws. So please read that and state your seconder.
So I read them all, am I right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love this part. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Slack, that leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. 138/2023 bylaw to amend parking bylaw for 14488. Being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Monroe Circle, and Price Street, Schedule 7. Parking prohibited at any time, public works policy, amendment on street parking regulations. 139/2023 bylaw to amend the parking bylaw 14488, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Dalhousie Schedule 8, stopping prohibited during certain time, public works policy 021, amending on street parking regulations. 140/2023 bylaw to amend parking bylaw 14488, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Bedford Street, Schedule 7, parking prohibited at any time, Public Works Policy 021, amending the on-street parking regulations. 141, 2023 bylaw to amend by parking bylaw 14488, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Cumberland Street, Schedule 7, parking prohibited at any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. 142, 2023 bylaw to amend traffic bylaw 3783, being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the city of Brantford, Rowanwood Avenue, Schedule 1 through Highway, City Council, June 27, 2023. 143, 2023 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 143 of the Municipal Code, Treasurer Deputy Appointment. 144, 2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 189, 2019, being a bylaw to approve the sale of certain lands and premises within the city of Brantford. Special City Council, March 24, 2020. 145, 2023 being a bylaw to amend the bylaw 54, 2019 as previously amended, being a bylaw to authorize the Brantford Airport traditional T-hanger installation, hangar 2 of 2 project, and to make the provision of the financing of the foregoing. Committee of the Whole Operations Report 2023-0808. 146, 2023 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 227 Cemeteries of the City of Brantford Municipal Code 2023-466. Committee of the Whole Operations Report 2023-0808. 147, 2023, a bylaw to close and convey the lane fronting Sandra Street. Committee of the Whole Planning Administration Report 2023-0814. 148, 2023 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code Procedure 2023-152. Committee of the Whole Planning Administration Report 2023-0814. 149, 2023 bylaw to amend bylaw number 16090, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location of use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford. Planning Committee Report 2023-0817. 150, 2023 bylaw to amend bylaw number 16090, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location of use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford. Planning Committee Report 2023-0817. 151, 2023 being a bylaw to approve the sale of lands municipally known as 2329 Colburn Street, Brantford, Ontario, and being commonly referred to as Colburn Points Land. Special City Council, July 17th, 2023. 152, 2023 bylaw to amend bylaw number 14488, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford, 2023-472, Planning Committee Report 2023-0817. 153, 2023 bylaw to amend bylaw number 3783, being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the City of Brantford, 2023-472, Planning Committee Report 2023-0817. 154, 2023 bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on August 29th, 2023. 155, 2023 bylaw to amend bylaw number 16090, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location of the use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford, 2023-459, Planning Committee Report 2023-0817.
That wasn't too bad. We've had much longer. So anybody want any of the bylaws separated for discussion purposes during first and second reading? Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 148 and 155 and not for discussion, just for voting purposes.
Okay, so 155, that's the bylaw Reed Johnson Road. And 148 is the procedural bylaw. Right. So we'll deal with those separately, one at a time. And if we would deal first with 148. Mr. Clerk.
The first and second reading of bylaw 148, 2023 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Samwell, McCreary, Marn, Sless, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members of council opposed. Councillors Hunt, Carpenter, and Van Tilborg.
All right, we'll move to bylaw 155.
The first and second reading of bylaw 155/2023 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Toborg, Samwell, Hunt, McCreary, Martin, Sless, Caputo, Sokoli. Members opposed, Councillors Sullivan, Carpenter, and Mayor Davis.
And the balance of the bylaws. First and second reading.
The first and second reading of all bylaws not separated for discussion purposes carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Toborg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
I believe Councillor Hunt, you've got the resolution read third reading.
I do. That all bylaws having been received, first and second reading, be taken and as read a third time and be finally passed and signed by the mayor and the clerk.
And your seconder?
Oh, sorry, that would be Councillor Carpenter.
All right. Does anybody want bylaws separated for discussion or voting purposes? Read third reading. Councillor Carpenter, did you want those same two separated?
Sure.
Okay. Any other bylaws separated? Not seeing any. Mr. Clerk, if you please take 148 first for third reading.
The third and final reading of bylaw 148/2023 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Samwell, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members of council opposed, Councillors Carpenter, Van Toborg, and Hunt.
Then next 155.
The third and final reading of bylaw 155/2023 carries on recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Toborg, Samwell, Hunt, McCreary, Martin, Sless, Caputo, Sokoli. Members opposed, Councillors Sullivan, Carpenter, and Mayor Davis.
And the balance of the bylaws for third reading.
All bylaws not separated for discussion purposes for the third and final reading carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Van Toborg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so while I sign the bylaw, council members' ward announcements and comments, and we'll start to my right. Councillor Sullivan, you're first.
I think I'm going to steal Rose's thunder here. Just want to welcome everybody out to Cockshut Park tomorrow. They're going to be at the Neighborhood Association is going to be putting on Doolittle.
Doolittle. Councillor McCreary, you're next.
Mayor, thank you very much. A couple of things of note, of course, I'll leave the airport announcement to my ward mate. He'll have more to say about that. September the 4th, Labor Day, is Superhero Day at Dairy Delight. Bring your kids out, get some face painting done, meet some police and fire and ambulance personnel. It's a fundraiser for Kids Can Fly. Labor Day, Monday, September 4th from 12 till 2. Labor Day's excuse me, a short schedule for a lot of City of Brantford facilities. We have regular garbage collection, landfills open, Earl Hague is open, pretty much everything else is closed. I don't believe we have transit or lift that day, but you can go to the City of Brantford website to see what isn't open. Another event coming up, there's a curling club fundraiser September the 9th. The George Rose Big Band is playing that night. I don't recall the times. but you can log on to the Curling Club website or ring them up to get details and tickets. And that is the extent of my announcements, Mayor.
Council Van Tilburg.
Labor Day Monday. I wish I could be there for that one, but unfortunately I'm going to be laboring and working. But I do want to state that the 67th annual Soapbox Derby is happening. It's something that I try never to miss unless I'm being forced to work, and I am. But at that point in time, everybody else can be there at 9 a.m. and watch the soapbox races. It's a lot of fun, and there may still be time to register, 12 and under, and you can use more than one soapbox, so you can share the soapboxes. So if you've got a friend that's going, maybe you can sign up with them. Top of the hill at Vicom Drive.
Councillor Secoli.
Finally. All right, we got a busy time in Ward 1 in September. So since Councillor Sullivan stole my thunder with movie night, we will be playing Doolittle, and that event is sponsored by yours truly. So I will be there, and I hope to see you out tomorrow at dusk. We have a public meeting to unveil the conceptual designs of the Southwest Community Center / library / school. And that's going to be taking place September 27th at 4 o'clock. I'll be there at Assumption College in the CAF. I did ask, the cafeteria will not be serving French fries, so eat before you come. September 23rd, we have a park opening at Hillcrest Park. I will be there. That's 11 Sandy Row. That'll happen from 12 to 2. So come on out and check out the new park there. September 14th at 6 o'clock at the Bell Homestead Theater. We're going to be having a public meeting to introduce and answer all of your dire questions about the Green Bin program that is coming out. So if you have questions about that, do come out. There's going to be some staff there that are way more educated on the topic, but they'll be able to answer any of your dying questions. Also, it is back to school next week. So for the love of God, slow down. The kids are going to be all amped up and running around, as we know they will be. They might not be paying attention. So slow down next week as you're driving through school, through all of those school zones. Keep an eye out and have a safe next school year. Have a good day, guys.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So coming in Ward 2 in September, the Grand River Arts Festival takes place at Glenhurst Gardens, September 15th to 16th. There'll be 35 exhibits, 18 theater competitors. Please be sure to make this event part of your calendar. We had a community meeting that was held at Brantford Station concerning a brand new park in replace of Robert Morris. So we will be revisiting that to ensure that the residents of that area get looked after. Probably the biggest board news in the past little while has been the ongoing use of SC Johnson. And I want to ensure that I let everyone know that I, and as well as Councillor Sless, are doing everything within our power to ensure that SC Johnson does not go anywhere. They are a world-class corporation that has treated Brantford with world-class respect. And we will do everything in our power to ensure that that gets looked after. And as Councillor Secoli said, it's back to school, but it really is back to routine. Please, everybody, again, watch your speed, watch your traffic as we get back to routines that we kind of missed out in the last couple of months. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as my ward mate suggested, I will be talking about the air show that happens tomorrow. The parking opens up at 11 o'clock for those that have prepaid for a parking pass. If you've not prepaid, you can still go, but the parking area there won't open up until 11:30. This air show is going to be a little different. It's a Wings and Wheels air show, so there's going to be a car show associated with it. The car show starts at 11 and runs right through. I think the voting for the best car is cut off at 1 o'clock. So if you want to cast your vote for what you think is the best car in the car show, you have to do it by then. And then at 2 o'clock, the fun starts with the aerial displays. The Skyhawks will launch, and while they're climbing to altitude, the Trevor Rafferty will do a bit of a teaser air show in his Pitts 12. And then once the Skyhawks get to altitude, they'll drop their streamers, and then they'll drop the parachutists. And anybody who's seen the Skyhawks before know they put on a wonderful show. They do tricks under canopy that no other team does. So it's quite a thing to see, and I look forward to it every air show. Once the Skyhawks are down, then Mike Trigvason will take to the sky with his extra 330, which is an amazing aircraft because I was recently up in an extra 300 and did some aerobatic training. Had a great time at it. So it's a wonderful aircraft, and I'm sure this pilot can make it do amazing tricks that everybody will be pleased with. And then Trevor Rafferty will come back with his Pitts 12 and do his full routine for everybody's pleasure. And then after that, we'll have the jet truck Bone Shaker, or should I say we'll have Bone Shaker. And we'll finish off with a race between Bone Shaker and Trevor Rafferty to see which vehicle wins. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my announcement.
Never heard quite an announcement like that, Councillor Martin. Councillor Hunt, you're next.
Thank you. Just want to recognize the Brandland Neighborhood Association, who is wrapping up another very successful baseball season. Kids year-end tournament will be September the 10th. Sign up for their volleyball season is happening on September the 5th. And I also want to give a shout out to both our staff and the County of Brant staff for what I consider to be an amazing Ontario Senior 55 plus games. The opening ceremonies, the entertainment was world class, and so from myself and I'm sure all of the rest of council, thank you to our staff for putting on a very good show. We really showed ourselves off as a world class city. Thank you.
Councillor Samwell.
All right. So I just wanted to talk about the fact that we're celebrating Earl Haig all the way until September 10th. So over on the Let's Talk Brantford page, you can share your memories, photos, and stories, and have a chance to win a daily splash pass and a putt pass if you want to post some pictures and stories over there. So I encourage everybody to take some time to share what Earl Haig means to you. Thanks.
Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of it's been said, but I've still got a couple, I guess, that didn't make it. And that's on the Let's Talk Brantford page. There's a proposal to put a food shack into Waterworks Park. That's on the site to please submit your comments, and I certainly want to hear what people have to say and what they think about that idea. So that's on Let's Talk Brantford. And secondly, I'd like to congratulate the Brantford Sports Council on the celebration they put on to celebrate Brantford's 25th anniversary as the tournament capital of Ontario. It was held on Friday night at the Walter Gretzky Golf Course, and it was extremely well attended. It was an excellent event, and the Sports Council did themselves proud with the organization and the event that they put on. It was impressive, and I think it kind of solidified, I think, in most minds that this is something that we've got, that we own as a city, and that it's valuable, and that we don't use it enough, and that I think we've got to put more effort into promoting ourselves in that venue and with the tournaments and the facilities that we have. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think most of everything been said, but we do have a presentation of the Green Bin program Wednesday, September 6th, next week at 2 p.m. and it's at the Sherwood Restaurant, and the meeting is going to be presented from staff about what the Green Bin means to, especially to condominium corporations. It's going to change dramatically of how things are picked up at condominiums. So that's September the 6th. And I also want to highlight the kids are back to school, so please, they're chasing each other, they're playing tag, they're playing ball, they're running around. They may not be thinking, they may run out in the street. Be careful, and for heaven's sake, so the school buses, when they put the arm out and their lights are flashing, that means stop. For crying out loud, stop when you see that school bus stop, and keep an eye out for the school bus. In fact, for when it does stop, so that you're not racing up beside it, and don't try and pass it because you think it's going to stop any second now. Remember that keep the kids safe in the neighborhood. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have an announcement to make that is kind of citywide. And we know that this past summer we had some reduction in transit service, but we did promise our users that we'd be expanding the service in the fall and actually commencing after this long weekend. The service on routes 4A, 4C, and 9, Monday to Saturday from 1 to 6 p.m. will be, the frequency of the buses will be upgraded to every 20 minutes. And with Route 7, that'll be increased every 15 minutes. There'll be some increase and further increases in afternoon and evening service hours beyond that. And then later this fall, we're looking at commencing a total review of our transit system to do a potential revamp. So that's certainly very exciting. I think for those who use transit, they'll have more regular service. That's certainly one of the major complaints we had from transit users and businesses. Lastly, this past week, myself and Councillor Sicoli and Mr. Hutchings and Chief of Staff Sasha Hill, we were at the Association of Municipalities Ontario Convention in London. Because of that, I couldn't answer Brian's call when he called me, the expositor reporter, on Wednesday or Tuesday about S.C. Johnson. But I can tell you that there's some interesting developments. GO Train, we made a major presentation to the Ministry of Transport on that. We'll be submitting a business case to the Ministry of Transport later in September. Also was able to advocate with the mayors of London, Oxford, Ingersoll, and the County of Oxford, and they're supporting us because that would also likely result in GO service to them as well. We talked about various provisions in respect to our landfill site, making it more efficient in collecting more methane gas and generating electricity from that. And a lot of other issues affecting the province-wide. It was a great conference, and we learned a lot, and we advocated a great deal on behalf of this community. So with that, I'm going to... There we go. Meeting's adjourned.